Hi, welcome to our daily encounter. Today we are in Mark chapter 12, verses 1 through 9. But this is a story about a man who plants a vineyard. He makes a wall. He digs a vat for the wine press. He puts up a tower, and he rents it out to people so that they can grow produce. And well, the time comes for the produce to be gathered, and he sends a servant out to gather the produce. And they reject that servant, and then another servant, and then another servant, and then finally he decides to send his son. He said, well, they didn't honor my servants, maybe they'll honor my son, and they end up actually killing the son. And then it says that, what is he going to do? Well, he'll destroy those wicked vine growers, and he's going to replace him with others. And this parable is a very clear parable. I don't think this is a very hard parable to understand. Even the religious leaders, as hard-hearted as they were, recognized the fact that this parable was about them. Of course, God being the landowner in the story, and the vineyard being Israel, that becomes clear, especially when you cross-reference Isaiah chapter 5. And then these vine growers are the religious leaders of the time. And whenever God would send people, and this is going back a while back through Israel's history, God would send them prophet after prophet after prophet to correct them, to direct them, to seek fruit from them. And time again, the prophets were beaten and sometimes even killed and rejected. And so this is a clear picture of Israel's history, but also what was going on in the time of Jesus. And Jesus, of course, is the Son that is sent. And even though he should have received more honor than all the prophets, they would even kill him and reject him. And so Jesus is basically rebuking the religious leaders. They're saying, basically, you're doing exactly what your forefathers did, the ones that you said that you would never do the same thing that they did in their day, well, you're doing it now. And here they are wanting to kill God's only Son, Jesus Christ himself. And so of course the imagery is pretty easy to understand. The message is clear. This is definitely a rebuke against him. Now the question we want to ask, of course, in a devotion like this is what application can we make to our lives? And I think perhaps the main one that we walk away with is that it's very important that we ourselves don't reject people who God sends to us for particular reasons. Especially those who God uses to correct us and to rebuke us and to get us back on the right path. And we can look at these religious leaders in the first century and we can say, oh, well, how could they do that? How could they persecute the Christians? How could they have killed Jesus? And we look back in Israel's history, how could they kill the prophets? But we got to look at ourselves sometimes and think about us. We don't want to be like the people in Jesus' day that said, oh, we would have never done that. Look at ourselves. How do you deal with rebuke? When someone sees perhaps sin in your life, maybe it's something that you've kind of always known wasn't exactly right, you shouldn't really be doing it, but then someone brings it to your attention, and all of a sudden you get defensive, all of a sudden you get angry, and maybe you're tempted, if you don't actually do it, you want to lash out at them. Or you want to stop speaking to them because they hurt your feelings, and you get mad. We have to be careful because we can do the same thing. We ought to readily receive people who come to correct us. Now, I'm not saying that every time somebody comes to correct you, they're sent from God or whatever. There might be some times where people come to correct you and they're completely wrong in their assessment of your situation. Maybe it's all based upon a misunderstanding. That definitely happens sometimes. But sometimes there's people who give us very good and very accurate correction. and they just come up to us, maybe with a gentle spirit, a loving heart, and they just say, you know what, I've noticed this about you. Maybe this is something you ought to consider changing in your life. And what we ought to do, instead of acting like, Israel did when people were sent to them, we ought to readily receive that and say, you know what, I'm so grateful that you had the courage to come to me and bring this matter to my attention. I will definitely consider what you have to say, and even maybe make a commitment to him that you will change whatever it is that you are doing. And this goes for anyone who might do this. It's not just an elder from the church, coming to you and correcting you. Maybe we would take that a little bit better, maybe not, I don't know, depending on the person. But this could also be maybe your spouse. I think our spouses are the people perhaps in the best position to correct us. Because one, they know us the best. They know how we're like at home. They know how we're at when we're comfortable with ourselves. They can notice more things about us. They're also around us the most. So they have more time to notice certain things about us that might be a little bit off. And instead of being defensive and getting angry and wanting to lash back at our spouse when they come to us to correct us, we should take it to heart. And it could go with anyone else, maybe a friend, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's even it could be a non-believer. It could be someone from outside the church who comes to you. It is true that a lot of times those who are non-believers are extra picky when it comes to Christians, because they pick out every little thing that you do, maybe to try to make Christianity look bad in general. So they think the more things they can find bad about you, the worse Christianity looks, and therefore they have a case against Christianity. But even if that's true, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take serious what they say, because sometimes they might be saying something worth listening to. Sometimes it's the non-believers who can pick out our inconsistencies the most and can show us that, hey, you say that this is wrong, but you do this. How can you do that? Or you say I'm wrong for doing this, but you do that. Instead of getting defensive again, we should say, you know what, you're right. I am wrong in doing that. That's something I need to correct. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. And so this is just a very, very important point. And if we will listen to the correction of other people and really learn how to take rebuke, our spiritual life, our walk before the Lord will be so much more rich. Our influence on others, our impact on other people, our light in this world will be so much brighter. This is a very, very important thing for us to take to heart. So let's think about those things as we read this parable today. I do thank you guys for listening in to the devotion. Hope you guys have a great day. I love you guys. God bless.